So you want to start this show? I'll do it. Hello, and welcome to the Living NLP podcast. My name is Nicholas Rave, and this is
Lane Bennett. That's right, ladies and gentlemen. Hold you.
Yes, exactly. We all know who they're here to see. So here in this podcast, our mission is to bring NLP to life, to get it out of your head and into the world. And we do that by sharing our own experiences of trying to live this philosophy and set of tools to the best of our ability every single day. So our show consists of, well, 3 segments, often only 2.
Let's call it 2. Let's
call it 2 segments, sure.
Let's call it 2.
We each share an anecdote, a story of a situation probably within the last week when we used our skills and philosophies of NLP. Often it's with a client, sometimes it's personal. Then we each share a quote of something that we think is relevant and often prompts discussion. And then if there's any questions, we love to talk to you, our fabulous audience. And that's it. So you can open with the anecdote this week. I'm pretty sure I did last time.
Let's see. So it's from a course that I took, a little online thing from Jorgen Rasmussen. Jorgen Rasmussen. And it's a metaphor. So the whole thing he taught was basically, he called it the psychological illusion model, meaning whatever you think your anxiety is coming from, your fear, your whatever, it's just a
not.
thought.
Yeah.
It's just a fucking thought.
Yeah.
And you're just having a thought. And if you can realize you're having a thought, then it's not, you're not in it. You just realize, oh, I'm having a thought. So it's partially meditational and partially don't take yourself so serious. So no. And he told a metaphor that he said, I use this metaphor a lot and I thought it was good. And I haven't used it yet, but I'm gonna see if I can remember it all. I didn't quite study it, but I'm sure we'll both get the picture. So I forget which French brothers sort of made the first movie. I know that the first American movie was whatever, Our Great Nation. It was not a great film. I'm sure you're aware of that. But apparently the first footage was of a train coming at you.
Yeah, I know this story.
Oh, great. So
no, it's good.
But the people would, when they first played it, some number of people freaked out and jumped out of their seats because they thought that the train was going to come through the thing. What that means is that they took what they were feeling for reality. They thought, oh my God, this image in front of me is making me feel this thing and I better scoot.
Right.
And his questions for his clients in those times, after saying, look, so, what did these people experience? And then how would you, so rather than just tell them this is what it is how would you help those people not do that? Right? So would you ban all kinds of movies that made people upset? And they're like, no, I wouldn't, because no, of course not, because some people like things like that, some people don't. So you can't really ban the information. So then, like, would you, strap them down to their chairs and tell them, or would you, like, how would you help this person in that movie theater realize that there was nothing to be scared of, that it was just an image on the screen, that it, would, like, do you go up and you like try and touch the train, try and grab the train, or, do you go and you take them to the projection room and you show them how the whole illusion works, and you go, do you see that this is just the mechanism of this information, and that you don't need to be scared because the train's not there. But if you're willing to sort of have a good time about it, you can pretend the train is there and like enjoy a scary train maybe, but not feel that you are in any actual danger, because you just realize, oh, I'm having a thought. This is just because this whole thing is like, I'm having a thought. And if you can take whatever your anxiety is or your fear is or whatever it is and go, I'm having a thought, and see it for what it is, not just think, oh, I'm having a thought and it's freaking me out, but just like say, oh, that's just an image on that screen. It's because movies are such a great metaphor. I mean, everything is a great metaphor for everything else, but movies are such a great thing. Or like, oh, it's not really there, but it makes me feel something, but it isn't really real. I'm the one allowing that image to do what it's doing to me. And if you can help someone to sort of realize that they are doing that, that they've just forgotten that the thought in their head that says dogs are all going to attack me or whatever is just a thought. It's not real. It's not a real thought. And that's kind of his whole thing. The whole thing was, oh, your mom, the thought of your mom, maybe your dead mom, makes you really upset about a thing and the way this and that. Okay, well, when you're here now in this place, and then you feel like your dead mom's having this thing, is that really your dead mom? Or is that a thought about it? And then you go, oh, wait, so it's not. And you just sort of go, oh, that's right. It's just a thought. You forgot you were having a thought. You forgot you were in a movie theater. And you forgot that train's not going to come off of the screen. And that was kind of, I mean, one of the bigger points that he made in different ways was that, and how you can help someone to realize that they are just enjoying a movie a little too deeply.
Right. They forgot it was a movie.
Yeah, they forgot it was a movie. They forgot it was a thought you're having rather than a thing that's real.
Yeah, that sounds like a very NLP way, which I mean, that's a good thing, a hypnosis perspective on the benefits of mindfulness meditation is learning how to observe yourself or your thoughts as a phenomena instead of being your thoughts, to be able to see your thoughts as like watching the clouds go by in the sky and, oh, look at that cloud, that looks like that, and to be able to observe your own thoughts as they're rising and to then observe the effect that those thoughts have on you. To me, that is one of the main promises of mindfulness. And what he's trying to do is be like, that's the reality right now. You can just realize that in this moment.
Yeah, but okay, he doesn't say that. He goes, what do you think? What would you tell them? Yeah, exactly. Right.
Yeah.
So just side note, very Jorgen. So he would say, if someone comes into me with fear of flying or something like that, and it's a picture and it freaks them out. He goes, okay, hang on to that. Now, what's the absolute worst thing you could ever possibly think of happening? Just the fucking worst. And he goes, my 6-year-old daughter dying of leukemia. He's like, okay, so I want you to go and picture that now and really go there and see it and really go on a scale on the level 10, because I really want you to like go there now. And they're like, okay, that was awful. And they're like, what was that on level 2? Like level 10. He goes, now I want you to do it again, but I want you to realize it's just a thought. And so they go, they do it again, and you got to make sure they're doing it. They're not like disassociating or doing whatever, that they're actually doing it as the thought that it is, but they realize it's a thought. And he goes, well, how is it now? I'm like, well, it's a 7. He goes, okay, cool. Go back again. Really don't change anything except for your own understanding that it is just a thought you're having. And they go, okay, fine. Okay. Yeah, I get it. I mean, it's not pleasant, but it's not freaking me out.
Yeah.
Cool. So what's worse? Your daughter dying of leukemia or your fear of flying?
Right.
And they're like, and usually that's it. He's like, oh, okay, I get it. But it's like, you really got to go to like, what's the worst? What if we can make the worst thing better, then isn't the thing you came in not even really a thing anymore?
Yeah, so. I like the reference point. Like immediately go to something so heavy and dark.
Right, make something worse better. Then you're like, what about this? Like, oh,
Mm-hmm.
Oh. So interesting little Jorgenism.
Well, another thought that popped into my head as you were telling the story about the train was, I've had a lot of thoughts about virtual reality and VR becoming this.
Yeah. I got one.
This
Did I tell you?
No, what do you think so far? Fun?
It's fun. It's interesting what they can do.
Yeah.
I there's an exercise game that's fun. I got the
Yeah. Beat Saber.
I mean, Facebook, I got your thing. Please be kind to my brain.
Yeah.
But no, it's not quite Beat Saber, but it's like that. But it's doing this and that, and it's interesting. I did a shooter, which is really interestingly done. It's not realistic, so you're not like going in like Fallujah and sniping fucking people, but it's really artistically done.
Was it Super Hot or was it?
Hot,
yeah. Super Hot's amazing with the time thing and everything.
So I went through that, which was interesting, and it's like it gets a little old, but really interesting, and it's like fun to shoot things that have no face. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And but honestly, my favorite game is Angry Birds. I was like, Angry Birds in 3 dimensions. You're like, oh, you can walk all around. It's like a whole thing that you go all around the thing. It's been fun. Just like lighthearted stuff. And was there one more? Oh, but there's some. I see what they do with like fears and like fear of heights and fear of and PTSD and the whole thing. Because like there's a couple games where like you go and you stand on a ledge. One's called like the plank experience. And you go stand on a plank that's like 100 stories up, and it's like, and then you're like, whoa.
Yeah.
And there's a couple roller coasters that you need to sit down for, because if you're looking and it's like, and you're like, so it's definitely the new, especially since movie theaters are going to be gone.
That plank thing that you talked about. So there was a study that they did where they 3D mapped the room that you're in, and then you put the goggles on. And so now you're still in the same room,
right? But
now we can fuck with the room. So they look around and they're like, oh, I'm still in the same room, but it's not a real room. It's a reprojection of the room. And so then they start doing things like you're standing in the middle of the room, and then everything except where you're standing falls away.
Yeah.
And they've been testing to see the range of responses that people have to this. And I had this sort of epiphany about hypnotists have been doing virtual reality for like hundreds of years.
Right.
Because what they talk about is there's this ability you get if you play enough VR and you get used to it, where you can tell your brain what you're seeing is not real. Well, so don't worry about it.
So the plank game didn't get me. It didn't get me at all. Like I was like, this is cool. Like, oh, neat.
Yeah.
And then they send giant spiders after you to fuck, and you're like, most people freak, and then when you fall off the plank, you plummet like 50 stories to the ground. It's like, but that didn't get me as much as the motion of like being.
Yeah.
Whoa, and I was like, I had to be like, and I'm fairly good on my feet and fairly good on my brain. I was like, I'm going down to my knees right now, because I don't need to fall over in my house, because it just takes your equilibrium, and it just
there's a kind of hypnosis that goes on in movies and VR where you have to be able to say, okay, let's pretend, like you say, let's pretend this is real. And feel the feelings that I would feel if it was real. But it's also possible to not be hypnotized by something, just like you can go into a movie and be critical and judgmental and not engage with it. You can go into a VR experience and be like, I know that it looks like that's there, but it's not. And I know that it's not. Right. There's something interesting to me about the self-hypnosis of either letting VR get to you or not letting it get to you. And you think about people who can't not let it get to them. That would be what we would call highly suggestible, eh? Like you put the VR headset on and they're like, I know it's not real, but I'm freaking out anyway.
Right.
I've seen a lot of those videos.
Yeah, especially with that plank thing and some other stuff.
Yeah.
But I've never been a gamer, so it's not like I'm not going to go like, I don't want to do any Call of Duty shit. I'm not trying to like, we're going to go snipe the rebels or some kind of thing like that.
Yeah.
So the exercise stuff's cool. It's really amazing. I mean, the technology is astounding, and it's probably where movies are going to end up.
Yeah. Well,
unfortunately.
there's a different kind of experience. You can't do the same theatrical type thing that you do where you're like, you know what everybody's seeing. They have to create
Right.
more interactive experiences where you're wandering around and it's more like slowly exploring a space as an experience. That's actually one of the things I'm most interested in, is like just the super high resolution scans that they do of like the top of Mount Everest,
Well,
or
yeah. So
like,
the only reason I wanted VR, which I think I told you, my friend who does all the geometry and the boxes and all this
yeah,
bullshit. So another amazing thing he turned me on to. He turned me on to Google Earth in virtual
yeah,
reality. And that's
right,
all I want VR for. But
yeah,
for me to do that, I need to buy a $3,000 set. I got to get a brand
yeah,
new gaming laptop,
right, right.
PC. Then I got to get the new different goggles. And I got to get a
Yeah.
whole other thing to set it up and connect
And
it.
it's going to be obsolete in less than a year.
I guess, but they don't. But Google is like, stop doing it. And but that is why they should have that in every school.
No
Like,
kidding.
you're gonna learn the world here. Go
Yeah.
check this out. Here's some history.
Yeah.
Push a button. You're there. No, now you teach your history class from the top of the
Yes.
pyramid instead of being like, and everybody can. So I think there's a lot to it. I think that most people are going to get lost in Call of Duty and you know whatever other stuff there is, but uh, it hasn't like nabbed me. I'm going to play with it this week. And like I realized this weekend, I was like, I didn't play with it this weekend. I was like, better get my money's worth. But since we're all locked down, I was like, all right, fine.
There are a lot of hypnosis applications for VR goggles too.
Yeah.
I've seen a
Yeah.
lot of people doing.
There's some meditational stuff, but
Yeah.
like now the Quest is its own little Facebook thing, which
Right.
is
Right.
like the Apple of VR. You know what I mean?
Right.
They're like, no, we're just this.
Yeah.
But it's also, you don't have to plug in. It does its own thing. It's amazing. So,
Yeah.
anyways, we'll stop wanking on Facebook. What else you got?
Well, let's see. I had an anecdote. So I was going to do something a little different this time. You have before on the show called yourself out for things. So I felt like I tell a lot of stories about awesome stuff that happens in my coaching sessions. And I like celebrating the things that go well. And I will say the majority of my sessions with clients go really well. But I think the main reason for that is because I've been pretty ruthless about analyzing what happens when it doesn't go well. So I thought it might be fun to break down a session that I had recently, that it wasn't terrible, but it was off. Like I'm shooting for that like 9.5 to 10 range. And it's like, that's good. I'm good with 95 to 100%. And this one was like 75. It wasn't terrible, but it felt off. And I thought it might be fun. I actually have not thought a ton about what I think went wrong because I kind of want to do it in the moment. So one quick principle I'll mention that I have found super helpful and really difficult is I record a lot of my sessions. It's in my contract with my clients. I let them know that I'm recording it, but I'm not going to share it with anybody. It's for me only. And so what I do is I will often go back and rewatch sessions. I'll go back and watch good ones and bad ones and just pay attention to like my thought process while I am saying the things, I'm coming to the ideas that I'm coming to. And I'm listening to it and going, why did I go in that direction? What other directions could I have gone in? And I found it really, really helpful. And it's not easy. It takes an effort to sit and listen to yourself, you know?
Yeah.
I don't like it. I know why actors are like, I never watch my own movies. I get it. But if you can get over that, I think it's a really good practice.
Yeah.
So, okay. So what did I do wrong? Well, what happened? I just felt like pushback for most of the time. And I felt like this almost like desire to get off the call from the client. And it was a lot of like, and like not a lot of responsiveness. So I think what I did, like, what did I not do? I didn't build enough rapport. And I did that at the beginning by not meeting him where he was at. And he showed up kind of apathetic and a little like, I don't know. And in an attempt to like grab him and move him out of it, I think that I immediately was like, well, here's what we should do.
Yeah.
Instead of going,
Been there.
okay, well, that's cool.
Right.
You want to just hang out then? It's like
Yeah.
meeting them there and then letting them start to lead a little bit
Yeah.
and then more
There've been
tentatively.
too many times. There's one time in particular, I was like, this guy was in a lot of pain and all this stuff. So he's sick of it. So he's just really like, eh. And I'm like, well, okay, we're gonna take care of all that. That is
Yeah.
shiny. It's not just this and the, aren't I everything that you want to be? And look at me,
Yeah.
like holding the standard for whatever. And like,
Yeah.
he was like,
Yeah.
get out of my face.
Exactly. Exactly. And it was like the client was like trying his best to be in it. And I think we ended up talking about good stuff, but the point is, because the rapport wasn't there, I don't know how much of any of it landed. And we may have ended up talking about exactly the same stuff if I had taken the time to build rapport sufficiently in the beginning. Or we may have gone in a different direction that would have been more valuable. It's a weird exercise to go back over something and think about alternative universes where it would have gone in a different direction, because ultimately, like, we can't do that. Like, no one ever has been able to go back and do it again in a different way. So we really don't know how it would turn out, but it still feels like that exercise stretches your brain in a good way, you know?
Yeah. Or just ask yourself, why did I do that?
Yeah.
What did I think I was doing there? What was I thinking? What did I
Mm-hmm.
think they were thinking? Igor has a thing where he does that, calls it Hypno Lab, where he like two people do a thing on a thing and he like breaks it down. Okay, now go to this time frame. And then okay, now or this point in the timeline. Okay, cool. Now what were you thinking there? What was that? Okay, so
Yeah,
here's where you kind of lose yourself on
exactly.
a thing. And it's like like but
Yeah.
it's also the best that you can have, you know.
Yeah. And it doesn't matter whether it was a good session or a bad session. It doesn't
Right.
really matter. I don't do it for every single session that I do, but it's like weightlifting. It's an exercise. You just go and do it for a time, and just
Yeah.
asking those questions makes you better at thinking unconsciously when you're in the next session that you have with somebody or the next conversation.
Yeah.
So what did
Yeah.
I mess up? Like, the big lesson is slow down, never skip rapport. Rapport is essential. Build rapport first. What is resistance in a client is a sign of lack of rapport. And at any point in that process, I could have stopped pushing and backed off and got more into rapport. But there's this weird double down urge that you get where it's like, okay, well, I'm in it, what is it, in for a penny, in for a pound. Like, that's what
Right.
it feels like.
Yeah.
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 So correct, like course correct sooner. That's another lesson.
Yeah. Pull the ripcord.
Yeah.
Or just call it out. Like, this feels weird. You feel weird? I feel weird.
Yeah.
Like, am I being weird? Like, just, and then it's like out.
Yeah. I think I did do that, if memory serves, but it didn't help because I then just went right back to pushing. And because I think he was dodging and he was like, no, it's fine. I don't know. I'm just feeling off, which is like, I could take him at his word there, but I'm like, no, I'm trusting my own instincts. There is something off here, and I'm taking responsibility for it. I'm saying it's not him. It's not your job. I mean, it's my job to get into rapport with that and then move it in the direction that I
Right.
want.
Right.
Yeah.
All
right. Cool. Yeah, that was fun. You got a quote? Oh, hell yeah. I've got that on my shelf. Have you read it before?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. I love this guy. Falcon Press, bro. New Falcon.
Yeah. Is that Christopher Hyatt?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So At one time, you may have believed in Santa Claus or the Tooth Fairy, and then you unbelieved it. It always feels so wonderful when I see my clients all of a sudden realize that all of your old problems and difficulties are just the same and can also be unbelieved. That's it. You know, like you used to think a lot of things were the thing before, didn't you? And you had some learnings or understanding. It kind of goes back to Jorgen saying, like, you realized on another level that, oh, that's not whatever, and then you became something else. You became something new, and you might not have even had to solve all of your old problems. You just didn't believe they mattered anymore. You know, you it works for anything, and Santa Claus is a great one. It's a I always keep coming back to this, but it's a great one for people trying to get out of other belief systems that are maybe also on certain Christmas days. They're like, oh, well, you stop believing that one. Oh yeah, you know, sometimes when you just kind of go, or maybe it's even, well, I can't unbelieve that I'm bad with money. I'm like, okay, remember when you were a kid and you believed in Santa Claus, like all your heart and soul, like everything. It's almost like the same as like, what's a belief that was even more deeper and more important to you?
Right.
You've already unbelieved that. So how about this one? You know what I mean? Like, it's kind of the same thing. Take something worse and go, if you can do that, you can do this. And just to see how, I mean, it's all just beliefs. Or you can believe in Santa Claus again. Like, I don't care as long as you're not, you know, running the government. I don't care what you believe. But like, you can do it at will, or like we've always playing with beliefs. But I just found it, you know, it's such a great example of how you're actually the one in control of who you are and what you believe, and why so many people have fought for all of history to keep that knowledge out of everybody's hands. I swear to God, if we could just teach half of this shit in grade schools, people would, you know what I mean? Like, what would the world be like if you were able to tell somebody, hey, don't worry, like, don't take it serious. It's all you, and you're making this, and things are different, and some people have hard times, and you got some things to get over, and this and that. Nothing's perfect. That's another one. Nothing's perfect. Stop trying to make it perfect. You know, like, what are the things I would tell a group of inner city kids, even if a high school, you know what I mean, if they would listen?
Dude, just the train story you told before, just that idea that it's just a thought. It's just a thought. That alone would, if you could get it into everybody, would change the whole world. In a
and that you are your beliefs, and that you can, you know, what do you believe about your beliefs, and how do you change someone's belief? Well, how do they know it's their belief? Well, how do they believe they know what they believe they know?
You reminded me of something. What a few times I have been working with somebody where whatever belief change tool I was attempting to use wasn't working. I try submodalities, try parts, or although I almost never have it not work with parts or timeline or whatever. One of the things that I've done a few times is elicit their strategy for unbelieving something. So like what this guy was saying is like, there's things that you believe, there's things that you don't. Give me an example of a specific thing that you used to believe very strongly and you don't anymore. Good. How did you do that? And you can elicit the strategy, like step by step, if you know how to, of how they did that, and just recreate it. And the beautiful thing about walking somebody through something like that is they gain a very deep awareness of their own processes. It's very teach them to fish, because the process of eliciting it from them elicits it for them. So they become aware that there is a process, which then they can easily do again and again.
Everything's so easy, because when you're trying to install something, you're like, but if you're trying to just elicit something, it's already there. You're like,
exactly.
Yeah.
I don't know how to unbelieve things. Yes, you do. Yes, you do. You do it all the time.
So you're going to put some cookies there for Santa Claus? You know? Oh, You don't believe
Oh,
he's
you don't
watching?
believe that anymore?
You don't believe
Huh.
he's watching everything you do?
I keep wanting to say, what's there's a verse that goes something about when I was a child, I believed as a child, and when I was grown, I put away childish things, which I find beautifully ironic in the Bible.
Yeah. Well, the
Like,
Bible should be kept from children. Like, it's such a horrible R-rated growth. Like,
yeah,
dude, there's some horrible,
yeah,
horrible things in the Bible. You would never show a 5-year-old.
right. Yeah, I mean, how many parents took their kids to see Passion of the Christ and made a fuss if they weren't allowed to take their small child into a rated R movie that probably should have been NC-17?
Yeah.
And they thought it was the right thing to do because they need to know
They
how
actually
much
had
was
in
suffered
Catholic
for
school, I
you.
don't know if you probably did, but they had a guy, I don't know if he was a priest doctor or a Catholic doctor, come and sit in the middle of the church and brought us all in and went medically over
Oh,
all
I've
of the
heard of this.
injuries that Jesus Christ had. Well, you see,
Yeah,
what they did, they didn't put it through his hand, they put
yeah,
it through here
I've
because
heard
there's a whole bunch of
this.
nerves. That's
Yeah.
what, and then this, they didn't so you could bleed, and then they did this, and all of the, and here's
Uh,
like, and then the
uh,
doctor is telling you every little, you're like, I'm 11.
And
What are
this is,
you,
you want me to feel guilty about
what
this,
are you
right? That's what
doing?
you're shooting for. You
So
want me to feel
anyways,
bad so that
yeah,
because you've confused guilt with gratitude,
right,
and you
yeah.
want me to feel grateful for what the fuck?
Yeah. Anyway, so I didn't mean to
Your belief
derail us
system is
again.
strange.
Yes, yes, but it's all about
I'm
belief.
glad it's working for you. I
Yes.
hope that it is.
All right. What do you got?
Okay, I had a Jung quote because I had some stuff I wanted to say about it. So, Jung, it is a frightening thought that man also has a shadow side to him, consisting not just of little weaknesses and foibles, but of a positively demonic dynamism. So there's a reason why this quote came to mind. Because I've been thinking a lot about the shadow, and another quote: "What the healthiest people you meet are those who have made friends with their darkness." Um, So I was listening to it. This is going to be meta podcast here. We're in a podcast talking about a podcast talking about a podcast. So I was listening to Lex Friedman, who I love his podcast, and he was referencing a Mike Tyson interview on Joe Rogan's podcast. And he referenced this moment when Mike Tyson, in an almost kind of self-examining, very honest moment, was like, Joe, what does it mean if doing violence is orgasmic to you? What does it mean if it makes you erect? And I think that that is a thing. What he's talking about there, I think, is a thing that exists inside of all of us. That we as human beings are descendants of creatures that killed living things with our teeth and our fingernails. And we're so far removed from that reality. Now, I don't want to live in a reality where when people get angry, they bite you. I'm glad that we have learned to deal with our animal impulses in a way. And I also think that I have come to believe that a lot of the neurotic behavior that exists in the general populace is due to disowning these aspects of ourself. So I wanted to hear your thoughts on this theory, and also if you agree that it's worth connecting to or rediscovering these things. How do you think one should go about doing that?
Well, I understand the whole bit about the shadow, which
Mm-hmm.
or like the healthy people embrace their shadow. Um, for obvious reasons. There's light and there's dark. We got to have both parts in us. Embrace the shadow doesn't mean go and do everything that you want to go do necessarily.
Right. No.
confusing sexual arousal with, I mean, doing violence on somebody, not my cup of tea. I don't see that being terribly useful. Uh, I think he's also probably, I mean, yeah, he likes doing that. He also likes getting paid millions of dollars
Sure.
to do it.
Sure.
That also gives him a boner.
Right.
You know, but I guess, is a murder boner a thing? I don't know. But like, I can't comprehend how how a man could rape a woman. I could not perform the act. I couldn't do it. That's not in my, I just have
But
never
just
been able to
because you
go,
couldn't do it can you not put your imagination into the
oh, sure,
mindset of someone who could?
I, I could, I don't do it. And the same reason I don't VR video games about murdering nurses in an insane asylum.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not my thing. I just don't get it. I don't get how, like, I'm gonna rape you and I have a boner about it. I don't know. Some people obviously do, and those people tend to be rapists. And maybe it's not so great that they can. But if I'm not saying everyone needs to sublimate all their urges, and hey, if VR needs to be a place where you can go get your rape on,
Yeah.
and not rape people, whatever, as long
Way
as
to
you're
tie
not,
it back to the earlier conversation. That was good.
right. But you know, or murder, all like everybody's tribal sublimation. I just sit home and I shoot my friends in the face for 8 hours a night or whatever. I don't see how that's certainly not useful for me to spend a lot of time thinking about. Could I be sexually aroused by violently attacking somebody? Should they not do it ever? I'm not going to say that, but again, maybe two rapists can rape each other and everybody's happy.
So I have a different experience. For me, I find that studying extreme behavior and belief systems helps me to feel like I am more centered in myself. So I read a book based on Sam Harris's recommendation called The Machete Diaries, that was about people in Africa who committed genocide in the tens of thousands. Like, there were individual people who possibly killed thousands of people. And reading about their interviews with these people helped me to understand the world and helped me to understand human behavior. And it helped me to understand how and why people can do what they do in more detail than, well, some people are just broken. Some people are just, that's just the way they are. Yeah, I guess putting myself in the shoes of the models of the world of these extreme experiences, it helps me to go, I don't know if but it explains a lot of behavior that seems unexplainable to me before. I'm not advocating it for you. You don't have to do it. I'm just saying I find it to be incredibly valuable.
I already know the world's fucked up and people are fucked up. I don't need to go find more examples of how more, because now I need to find something more fucked up to make sure I keep learning that, you know, I stay in the middle. So I better learn some more. So I get it. There's bad shit. And, you know, you want to read the most negative thing in my house, I think, is Bury My Heart at Wounded Knee. Which is the book, and it's gnarly. I don't know if you read it. It's fucking horrible.
You know, my wife and I,
people are horrible. They do terrible shit. I need to not focus on that.
my wife and I had a realization about horror movies and just like emotionally intense movies. Like, one of my all-time favorite movies is called The Fountain, and it's she just said when she finished watching it the second time, she gave it a second shot. She was like, you know, this movie is just relentless. Like, it just doesn't stop. Like, and I really was able to understand that for her, I don't, it's like, she's like, it's stressful enough in here for me. I don't need that
Yeah.
to, like, I don't want to
I
add
don't watch
more.
horror movies.
I can look at the world and be stressed enough. And I don't know why I have a completely different response. Like, horror movies and those types of things are delightful for me. I love it. And I feel, it took me a long time to embrace it because I used to really judge myself and be like, why do you like H.R. Giger? What the fuck is wrong with you? But it is a very like Alan Watts finding God in the ashtray kind of thing for me. You know what I'm talking about?
Sure. But
Yeah.
so yes, go ahead. Awesome. Do it.
Yeah.
There's a fucking 1,000 of those movies and they end up making 7 of them each. So
Yeah.
somebody cares. It's just, it ain't my thing. I met a
Yeah.
girl that I was like, right after I broke up with my ex 6 years ago, whatever it was. She's really hot. It's like, oh, like, so what do you have to do? She's like, I love watching horror movies. I was like, what? Like, you love watching women get stabbed and raped? We're like, because women usually take the brunt of the the action in a horror movie. And I'm like, you like watching that, huh? Like, okay, cool. And you can have that, but that ain't
Yeah.
me. So I got no time. If it's, yeah, I don't have time for that shit. It's got to be clever, funny, like sci-fi, maybe weirdly dark, but kind of funny or like poignant and something. But if it's just like, you know, especially with the jump cuts and the like just like, some people love that shit. That's fine. Some people love Justin Bieber. They can both
It's
be in the
true.
same
It's true.
pile.
There's a lot of things that I would look at and be like, yeah, go ahead, but it's
Right.
not for me. So
Yeah. So you're not alone. As long as you're not, I mean, I'm sure
I don't feel judged, Morgan. Damn it.
Watch whatever the horrible movies that you watch and get boners about it.
Okay, it's your turn now.
Yeah.
Yeah, good color shift, Nicholas.
Yeah. All right. Well, on that note,
Yeah. Oh, wait, no, you already did your quote. That was it.
did. Yeah.
Well, cool. We ended on a high note.
Sweet. All right, man. Well, Adrian,
Adrienne and Grace, hello. We've got viewers.
nice. I can't even see.
Oh, what did we could respond to these.
Well, there's nothing on my thing.
Adrienne was commenting about trauma as part of mixing sexual arousal and violence.
Yeah.
And Grace said, Liz gets me. I don't need more.
That's where I'm at.
Yeah. Yeah. To each your own, folks. All I'm bringing it up for to say is I don't think it's inherently negative, these things. It depends on your response to them. And I think you should be honest about what response it's having. And don't push yourself to do something. But I truly believe that alchemy is turning lead into gold metaphorically. And I think that that's probably part of what goes on for me in those experiences. Is it's a transcending of something. And it works for me, doesn't have to work for everybody.
Yeah. Click.
Doesn't work for Morgan.
Get that shit out of here. All right, buddy. Well,
all right.
Good one.
Peace, love, and NLP, everybody.
Hey, bud.
Bye.